Welcome to Football with Cheese. So if you're regular on my channel, you will know I don't really like to do rankings. I don't like to do lists because they're controversial. A lot of people get mad. But I did the top 15 quarterback. I will link it. Let's put it in this box at the end. And I've also done recaps for all 32 teams. So if you're new to the channel, make sure you check those out. Find your favorite team. Or if you got nothing going on this weekend, just watch all 32. Might as well. But in this video, what I'm going to do is rank the best units in the NFL at each level of defense, offense. For example, I'll do defensive line, then we'll do linebacker, secondary, we'll do all the offense as well. So make sure you are subscribed and hit the bell so you never miss a video. I'm looking forward to this. I had fun doing research. If you've never been a podcaster or a YouTuber, research can be really tedious. It can take a lot of time. The draft videos, especially the breakdowns, took a lot of time. A lot of fun, though. This one was fun because, well, you'll see. You'll see because some teams show up multiple times. And that tells me who's going to be really good this year, depending on injuries, of course. So we're going to start on defense. And defensive line, first off, for some of them, I'm going to talk about last year. I obviously didn't have a channel last year, so I did not do this. But last year would have been the Eagles. Absolutely. You have Jalen Carter. You have Jordan Davis. You have Nolan Smith. You had Josh Sweat, and you had Milton Williams, but they're gone. So I did not have the Eagles this year. Defensive line was the toughest one to pick because I have two. So I'm cheating a little. I'm going to do two. But the New York Giants have the best nose tackle in the NFL, hands down. Dexter Lawrence is a great run defender. He's a great pass rusher. To me, he's a Hall of Famer. He's that good. A lot of people don't talk about him because he plays for the Giants. They haven't been good in several years. It's been 3 years since they made the playoffs. And you have some pass rushers that are very good. Brian Burns. You have Kayvon Thibodeau. Maybe he hasn't lived up to the top 5 pick that he was, but he's still above average player. Pressure will be on Thibodeau this year. Maybe he'll step up and become that elite player because they drafted Abdul Carter, 3rd overall in the draft, a player I was really high on. His ceiling is incredible. Just a freak athlete, elite pass rusher who's still learning the position. He's only done it 1 year at Penn State. He needs to learn more moves, but I think he will. And then you have Chauncey Golston as well. Pretty solid player. I'd say above average. He was a 3rd-round pick out of Iowa a few years ago. And in this draft, not only did they get Carter, the first pick of the 3rd round, they got defensive tackle Darius Alexander from Toledo. He will play the 3 technique next to Dexter Lawrence. In my opinion, at some point he will start. And I bring him up because he had a great Senior Bowl. Obviously, in the MAC, it's a risk. It's just not the same level as the SEC, Big Ten, ACC, conferences like that. But he had a great Senior Bowl week. And there was hype that he could sneak in the first round. You saw some mock drafts where he was going 28th, 30th, something like that. And then as the process got closer to the NFL draft, he just disappeared from the mocks. And then he started going early 2nd, and then late 2nd, and ends up being a 3rd round pick. I thought for sure he'd go in the top 50. Absolute steal at pick 65. So the Giants is 1A. And 1B, I have to go Pittsburgh Steelers. They have the best pass rush of anyone in the NFL, in my opinion. It's insane, the depth as well. The reason I didn't have the Steelers above the Giants by themselves is because it's way better pass rush than run defense, but it's just so good at pass rush. Cameron Hayward, I don't know how he's doing it. He's been in the league, it seems like forever, still playing at elite level. He should be in the Hall of Fame, in my opinion. Just so good. Keanu Benton, defensive tackle from Wisconsin. He's one of those guys with nose tackle size, but he's just a much better pass rusher than run defender. We're getting more and more of those in the NFL. The big guys are 325, 330, but elite pass rushers and just average run defenders. They drafted Derek Harmon in the 1st round of the draft, and he was one of the best pass rushing defensive tackles in all of college football. I think he led all defensive tackles in pressures, in total pressures. So they got him in the first round. They already added to a great unit. Let's put it that way. As long as they release Dean Lowry, he's a former Packer. He's just not a good player. They need to move on from him. As long as they release Dean Lowry, it's a great group. And I haven't mentioned the edge rushers yet. I haven't even started with that. TJ Watt, one of the best edge rushers in the NFL. They got to figure out the contract situation. Just pay him. Come on, Steelers. Just pay him. Just, like I said, just one of the best players in the NFL, let alone pass rushers. Alex Highsmith, maybe the most underrated pass rusher. Plays opposite TJ Watt. No one talks about him. And then you get Nick Herbig. He's a terrific designated pass rusher. Oh, and they drafted Jack Sawyer. If you don't know who he is, if you watched Ohio State versus Texas, you know absolutely who he is. It was a 21-14 game. Texas about to tie it up. He gets the strip sack, returns for a touchdown, and that was the game. Ohio State would go on to win the national title. Sawyer's not an elite athlete, doesn't have the greatest length, but he's just always produced in college. Somehow he's going to be successful in that room. So I cheated. I used two teams, Giants and Steelers at defensive line. Linebacker. So last year would have been the 49ers. Absolutely. Fred Warner, Dre Greenlaw. But Greenlaw signed with the Broncos. So it's a new team this year. I just want to mention the Lions because they have a lot of depth and just three good players. Maybe not great, but good. In Jack Campbell, Alex Anzalone, and Derek Barnes. They also have Zach Cunningham as well. Very deep. But the best has to be the Philadelphia Eagles, the Super Bowl champion Philadelphia Eagles. So they have Zach Bond, who's one of the best linebackers in the game last year, had an interception in the Super Bowl. They drafted Jihad Campbell in the first round. He was the best off-ball linebacker available in the draft, in my opinion. Oh, and by the way, they drafted Jeremiah Trotter Jr. in the 5th round last year. That was an absolute steal. I thought he'd go in the 3rd round. They drafted Smile Mondone Jr. in the 5th round this year. Another player should have gone in the 3rd round. Both Trotter and Mondone are undersized. Maybe that's why they fell. But they could start for probably half the teams in the league. That's how good they are. The Eagles just do this. They somehow get these players that other teams pass on. I don't know how. Oh, I didn't mention Nakobe Dean. Nakobe Dean was playing at a Pro Bowl level and got hurt against Green Bay, so he'll miss a lot of the season. But that group is talented and it's deep. Hands down, the best linebacking core in the NFL. We'll talk about the Eagles a lot in this video. And secondary, another team we're going to talk about a lot, is the Baltimore Ravens. The Ravens already had a good safety room. Kyle Hamilton, to me, is the best safety in the NFL. He's the most versatile. He can play in the box, he can play deep, he can cover. And they have our Darius Washington as well. But the Ravens like to take the best player on the board, regardless of position. I love that about them in the first round. That's why they haven't had a first-round bust in quite a while. And they take Malachi Starks. I didn't love Starks as a top 15 pick, maybe not even top 20. But they got him 27th. That's really good value. And he's versatile. He can play in the box, and he can play deep. All their safeties can. They're so deep and versatile in that safety room. And I haven't talked about corner yet, which a few years ago was a weakness, and now it is a strength. Marlon Humphrey, outstanding corner. I would play him in the slot. My God, he could dominate in there because they have some guys that can play outside. Nate Wiggins was their first-round pick last year. Fell probably because he's only 170, 175 pounds, but played the run really well for an undersized corner. They signed Chidobe Awuzie. Another guy can play inside or outside. Just a solid player, not great. And Jair Alexander, after the Packers released him, they signed him. Gosh, they're deep. He's a terrible run defender. But Humphrey, Wiggins, and Awuzie are very good at it. You can have one corner that's just really bad at run defense. But Alexander, if healthy, he's a very good cover corner. I want to mention this. Bill Hall Cone, I believe that's how you pronounce his name. He was a 6th-round pick out of Western Michigan. I thought he could go in the 3rd round. I think it's an absolute steal. He could develop into a starter down the line, in my opinion. Wow. That group is loaded, and it is deep. Baltimore Ravens have such a good roster. I'm not going to do specialists, by the way. Kicker, punter, long snapper. They're not football players. I'm not going to do who has the best specialists. I'm sure team out there. I think Pittsburgh's pretty good. Whatever. Offense. We'll start with the offensive line. So before we talk about that, Daniel Jeremiah, who is a draft analyst for NFL Network. I'm sure you know who he is. A couple of years ago, he said something. I don't have the quote, so I'm paraphrasing, but he said, I'd rather have 5 Bs on my offensive line than 4 As and a D minus. Basically, you don't want a weak spot on the offensive line, even if it's just one. Like the Vikings at guard last year made the playoffs, hurt them. Green Bay at center last year, both disasters, and they lost games late in the year because of it. And the reason I bring it up is Denver Broncos, of all the teams in the NFL, probably the only one that doesn't really have a weakness on the offensive line. Maybe Minnesota. But I'm still not going to say them. Because the Eagles, even though right guard could be a huge weakness, they are so good at the other 4 spots. It's insane. Jordan Mailata might be the best left tackle in the game. You could argue that. Landon Dickerson at left guard, he's elite. Lane Johnson is a Hall of Famer, in my opinion, at right tackle. Cam Jurgens, good center. Maybe not great, but he's a good center. He's not as good as Jason Kelce. Right guard's the only issue. And Tyler Steen and Kenyon Green supposedly are competing for that spot, but they were terrible last year. I think veteran Matt Pryor, who used to be an Eagle, he was a starter for the Bears last year. He's the guy that I would put in there. He wasn't bad last year, probably league average. Bears moved on from him, but that's who I'd put in there. Or, here's another scenario. I really like their 5th round pick of Drew Kendall, center from Boston College. They could, if Kendall has a good camp, put him at starting center and move Jurgens to right guard. He played guard his rookie year when Kelce was still the center. So they could do that as well. But Tyler Steen and Kenyon Green have not been good when asked to play. We'll see what happens with that. By the way, last year, just want to mention this, absolutely would have been the Lions. Hands down. But Frank Ragnow retired, and Kevin Zeitler left as a free agent, signed with the Titans. I'm not sure why they didn't bring Zeitler back. So they're relying on some young players at guard, Christian Mahogany and rookie Tate Rutledge, so it's more of an unknown. But the Eagles still, to me, have the best offensive line. Yeah, we've mentioned the Eagles multiple times. They're really good. They just won the Super Bowl. All right, running back. So what I could easily do at running back is say Derrick Henry and whoever, or Saquon Barkley and whoever. But I'm not going to do that. So how I'm doing this is most teams use 2 running backs. So I'm just looking at the depth chart, 1 and 2. I'm not going 3 or 4 deep because the number 3 or 4 running backs a lot of times won't play much at all. Honorable mention is the Lions. Jahmyr Gibbs is elite. David Montgomery is very good. But I have to go with the Atlanta Falcons. Bijan Robinson is the best running back in the NFL in the first 10 yards. I don't know why. Maybe he doesn't have vision in the open field. He doesn't seem to make enough big plays, but he's so good around the line of scrimmage. He's good at catching the ball. And Tyler Algiers would start for probably half the league. He's the backup. He's a free agent end of the year. He's going to get paid by someone. He's just been very good all 3 years in his career. He was the Falcons starter his rookie year. And that's why it was a slight surprise that Bijan Robinson was the first round pick for the Falcons in 2023 because you have Algiers. But that combination is just so good. And like I said, Algiers is going to get paid by someone. Lions fans are going to rip me in the comments because it's got to be Gibbs and Montgomery. But I think the Falcons just a little bit better. Tight end room. This one was tough. There were 3 teams that I wrote down. So the Steelers traded for Jonnu Smith. So you have Pat Freiermuth and Smith. Freiermuth played inline tight end. Jonnu Smith will play more the receiving tight end. Probably going to play a lot of 12 personnel because they don't have the greatest receiving core. And you could also say Vikings, TJ Hawkinson and Josh Oliver, who's a very good blocker. But I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens again. Mark Andrews, very good receiving tight end. We know what happened in the playoffs. He dropped that two-point conversion, but he's had a really good career. Isaiah Likely is also a very good receiving tight end, an underrated blocker. When Andrews was banged up and missed some time, Likely played really well. He could start for probably all but 5 or 6 teams in the NFL. He's that good. It's just the best 1-2 combination, in my opinion. And Charlie Kolar, Kolar, I think it's Kohler. He's the number 3 tight end. He'd be the number 2 tight end for most teams. That group is just loaded. God, Baltimore Ravens. The roster's so good. Guard is really my only issue with them. If their guards play well, look out. So wide receiver was tough as well. So if you just go top 2 receiver, then you're thinking Eagles, Vikings, or Bengals. God, we mentioned the Vikings a lot here. Vikings could be sneaky good. J.J. McCarthy plays well. But those 3 teams, Eagles, you got A.J. Brown, and you got Devontae Smith. Vikings, you have Justin Jefferson, Jordan Addison, and Bengals, obviously, you have Jamar Chase, T. Higgins. But most teams play a lot of 3 receiver sets, and some of them get hurt, so I went 1 through 4 when I did this ranking. And to me, the best 1 through 4 is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. You have Mike Evans, who's just really good. He'll catch anything you throw up to him. He's huge. Chris Godwin, one of the best route runners in the game. Yes, he's coming off an injury. Supposedly, he should be fine. And they used their first-round pick on Emeka Egbuka. Really like that pick. He's such a good route runner, so good after the catch. And they used a third-round pick on Jalen McMillan last year from Washington. Didn't get off to the best start. He played better as the season went on. So 1 through 4, to me, that's the best. I didn't include running backs and catch the ball in the receiving core, but Bucky Irving's very good at that. So if we included that, Tampa Bay is definitely the best receiving core in the NFL. Side note, I would not be surprised when I do this video next year if we're talking about the Houston Texans. Obviously, Nico Collins, to me, is a top 5 receiver in the NFL. And they drafted Jaden Higgins in the second round, Jalen Noel in the third round, both from Iowa State. Love both those picks. Great value. They have Christian Kirk, the veteran, who's not as good as he used to be. At this point in his career, he needs to be your number 3 receiver, but on this team, he probably is. And who knows if Tank Dell can ever stay healthy. He's a very good player. In the small sample size we've seen of him, he can make plays. So next year, we could be talking about the Texans. They are 5 deep at receiver if Tank Dell is healthy. So to wrap up, best quarterback room. Here's how I did quarterback. I did top 2. I have to include the backup because most quarterbacks don't play all 17 games. They just don't. But you have to have an elite number 1 quarterback. So there are 4 teams that do. We have the Chiefs, the Bills, the Ravens, and the Bengals. So it's one of those teams. I could not pick the Bills because Mitch Trubisky is terrible. So Bills are out. Honorable mention, the Bengals. Jake Browning's been solid. He's had one really good game as a backup. But I think the other 2 teams just have a slightly better backup. Second honorable mention, obviously the Chiefs. We have Patrick Mahomes. And Gardner Minshew's just a good backup. Maybe not great backup, but he can fill in for a few games. But I'm going to go with the Baltimore Ravens yet again. They signed Cooper Rush in the offseason. So Cooper Rush started 8 or 9 games this past year for the Cowboys. I think it was 8 games. He went 4-4, 12 touchdowns, 5 interceptions, 1,800 yards. That's good for a backup. Very good for a backup. Not great for a starter, but very good for a backup. And he's mobile too. He fits their system. This is one of those sneaky underrated signings. Now, you don't want Cooper Rush starting the whole season, but he could fill in for 4 or 5 games if Lamar Jackson gets hurt, and they could still win all of those games against anyone. So I like that signing. And by the way, he went 4-4 as a starter with the Cowboys, and they do not have the roster that the Ravens do. They didn't make the playoffs. So that's pretty good considering the consistent offensive line the Cowboys had. Only one real weapon in the passing game, CeeDee Lamb. So, all right. So let me have it down below. Comment. Is there a unit that I left out that I should have mentioned? Do you think the Ravens have the best roster in the NFL? I think they do. Are they Super Bowl favorites? I do not know. Their schedule is brutal. Their division is so tough, and they play the NFC North. All 4 teams are expected to be really good. If you have not subscribed, do so now. Enable alerts so you never miss a video. If you enjoyed this video, please give a thumbs up. Really helps out the channel. Share this with anyone who loves football as we continue to grow football with cheese. Like I said earlier, I did recaps for the offseason for all 32 teams, so make sure you check out your favorite team and then comment below and let me know what you think about it. If you have not, check these out, and I'll see you in the next video.